It says, but to the contrary, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision had been committed to me, as the gospel of the circumcision was to Peter. It is important to note, this to say, folks today in churches, they don't read this, they don't notice this. How many of you have read this and understood this before coming to this ministry? They don't teach this. People think that Peter and Paul were Christians, that they were part of the same group. But no, two different gospels. One was circumcision and one was uncircumcision. They're very different. Well, so then it seems like there Peter had to reflect upon the fact of what Paul had been speaking for 14 years. Let's look at what verse 8 says. And he says, for he who worked effectively in Peter for the apostleship of the circumcision, past tense, also worked effectively in me towards the Gentiles. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that had been given to me, now these were considered pillars, they gave me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship that we should go to the Gentiles, and they to whom? You see the division here? And they to the Jews, the circumcised, and Barnabas and Paul to Gentiles. So it is to say that Peter had no business preaching to Gentiles. Number one, he shouldn't have been in Rome. Number two, he should have never arrived to Spain. They had to stay amongst the Jews, the circumcised, the Jews, understanding that they had agreed, Paul and Barnabas to the Gentiles, and we would stay among the Jews. But here he is in Antioch. So when he got to Antioch, Paul was bothered because 14 years had gone by. So Paul withstood him face to face because he was to be condemned. Why? Because before certain men came, he would eat among the Gentiles. But when these ones from circumcision would show up, he'll separate from them. And the rest of the Jews also played the hypocrite with him. And even Barnabas, it says, was carried away with the hypocrisy. But when I saw that they were not walking straightforward according to the truth of the gospel, he said to Peter before all of them, before it was face to face, now it was amongst all of them, why do you obligate the Gentiles to circumcise themselves? I personally know no other ministry that has brought this division of circumcision and uncircumcision to light. No one has understood this. Do we agree? What does a Protestant leader think when he reads this? Can he understand this? No, he doesn't understand these revelations or this mystery, because they think that Paul and Peter are of the same group. They think that the apostles were Christians. They weren't Christians. They were Judaizers, because the gospel they represent was circumcision. Naturally, they believed in Christ, but they believed in a Jewish Christ.